Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers with the Starter Girls. I'm Jennifer Loading.
And I'm Brianna Drelas, and we are talking to the achievers, creators, magic makers, and the dreamers.
These are our friends, these are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills, photographer of Glad Models Agency. If you are here in the Dallas or surrounding area and looking for some photography work, check out Walt Mills. You can learn more about him and his work at photosbywalt.com. All right.
We're back in studio.
We are. We're back in studio.
Yay.
Yay. We're super excited. We have a guest here today, which is always fun. We love it when the guests are here. So welcome, Tricia. We're so happy to have you here today. And we want to tell our audience a little bit about her because she's amazing. And for those of you that have been following us for a while, if you followed Starter Girls, Scott Ferguson, whom of which was a guest on our show, is the one that connected us to Tricia.
That's right.
Which is here with us today. All right, so a little bit about Tricia. Tricia Roos is a Dallas wife and mother who built her career coaching young athletes. However, multiple state volleyball championships pale next to what she gained through tragedy. Against the advice of medical experts, Tricia completed her pregnancy with a child diagnosed with a fatal chromosome condition. That season, her team won. The child in her grew, and eventually Tricia held and loved the daughter no one expected to live. Then in 6 days, Tricia and her family rewrote the medical chapter on Trisomy 18, living out a story that galvanized the large high school she worked in and the media in her city. She continues to inspire her audience and readers today. So welcome to Behind the Dreamers, Tricia. We're so happy to have you here.
I'm glad to be in person. This
I know.
is so much more fun.
Isn't it? We agree. We absolutely agree. Don't you agree?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes,
right.
I do agree. Yeah, we're happy you're here.
We are.
Yeah.
We are.
And I love that you're sharing your story and just continuing to support others, encourage others, and inspire them. That's why we're here, right?
Yes. And it took a long time to get to that point, I think. But after writing a book and being able to speak about our experience, I think that it's more time for me to help others and pull others that are down at the bottom that are experiencing tragedy than for me needing that help that I once needed so desperately.
Yeah. Okay, well, I want to open this up because I actually went in because I didn't know what this condition was. So it was new to me. I know Brianna's familiar, but so when I mentioned, who you were and what you're about, Brianna's like, oh, I know about that. But I had to go in and look this up. And so I imagine that some of our listeners are going to be, what is this?
Yeah.
So I think let's start with that. Tell us a little bit about what this genetic condition is so that our listeners know what we're talking about here and how this kind of shaped, you've got a lot going on here and you've had a lot going on, which is amazing. Yeah. But tell us about that first.
So the easiest way to describe it is like so many people know what Down syndrome is, and Down syndrome is actually called trisomy 21. And so trisomy 18 typically presents itself as more severe heart conditions and brain conditions, but it's very much like Down syndrome. And so nowadays, I don't even remember this being an option with my first pregnancy, Annabelle. This pregnancy was my second. And my doctor told me at 12 weeks that I could do a blood test to figure out gender of the baby. And I'm a planner. I had a boy already. I really secretly wanted a girl and to start buying girl clothes and painting walls pink. And so we agreed to the blood test. But really the blood test was way more than gender. It had a panel of things you could find out about the baby. But I didn't even consider anything else being wrong. I was 32. My first pregnancy was healthy and normal. And so when I got the call from my doctor about the results of the test, again, I was like, gender is all I really care about and all I assumed I was going to get out of it. And so she did tell me it was a girl, but she said that she tested positive in this panel for trisomy 18. And a lot of these blood tests, it can be false positives, but, not commonly, but it can happen. We actually had some really good friends that did the same blood test and their baby tested positive for trisomy 21 for Down syndrome, and it ended up being a false positive. So I knew that was a possibility. That's what I was praying real hard for. But we ended up at a specialist who confirmed the diagnosis. And so there I was at about 12 weeks pregnant, knowing that my baby was testing positive to something that's considered incompatible with life. The specialist recommended an abortion. But for me and my husband, we knew that there was still a chance of her surviving. And I think my coaching background really kicked in. I was like, I tell my kids all the time, even if you're up against the number one team in the state, we're just going to fight and we're going to try our best. And you can walk away from that feeling like you did everything you could instead of just giving up. And so we decided to continue the pregnancy, and I had to just go in with the mindset that we're going to support her any way that we can. And if that means it's a stillbirth, or it means that she takes 3 breaths and passes away, we just really wanted to see it out and let it go the way it should. And of course, I was a high school coach, and my team had won back-to-back state championships the 2 years prior. And so I found out this news on July 15th, and volleyball season starts August 1st. And so we kept all of this to ourselves at first. There was just a week of like crying and tears and processing. But I knew that if I was going to go into this volleyball season, I had to be honest. I couldn't lie. I had to be vulnerable, because the reality was that a lot of these pregnancies end in stillbirth, and I'd have to give birth to a baby and be on maternity and leave my whole team for the rest of the season. And so we went on this retreat at a lake, and I remember telling the girls, and there was a lot of tears, but they were just like, we're here. Like, we're going to be here for you. We're going to fight with you. My assistant coach was ready that if anything happened, he would be ready to step in as head coach. And that was really hard, because those were teenage girls that had never been exposed to anything like this. And even for their parents, I had to tell them, like, I'm going to tell your girls some really heavy stuff. But I can't lie. I have to be honest, and I'm going to let them know what I'm going through. But that whole season, we went on to win the state championship, and we had a lot of talent graduate. So this wasn't an easy state championship for us. And I think that just because we were in it for something bigger than ourselves, I saw these teenage girls fighting for just something bigger. They were incredibly selfless. At practices, there was no whining, complaining, drama. If any of you have experienced teenage girls, sometimes they're dramatic, really dramatic. But we didn't let anything come between us. And I was lucky enough to still be pregnant by the end of the season. I looked like a giant whale, but I was running up and down those sidelines, coaching them through it. And even our state championship rings have her name engraved. We called ourselves Annabelle's Army. And then I went through that next month and a half, just mentally preparing for whatever would come. I had no idea what would come, but I was like, I'm just going to do everything I can to stay healthy and keep my blood pressure down. And we did get to meet her live. The whole room was full of doctors and nurses, because this was the first live Trisomy 18 birth at Baylor downtown, which is a huge hospital, that any of these nurses and doctors had experienced. And she didn't breathe for the first 4 minutes or so. It was just silence. And then this little lion purr cry came out of her. And from then it was like my maternal instinct and my fight kicked in. I was like, I want to hold her. I want to be with her. I want to introduce her to my family. And I'm just going to live in the moment, and I'm going to love her for every minute that I can. And I think so many times in life we sit there and like we waste a day doing nothing, but we counted minutes and hours. And at the end of every day we sang happy birthday, because it was like, we made it 24 hours. This is a miracle. And so she lived 6 days. We got to take her home. She died in my arms. But I look at that situation now 7 years later, and I'm like, I am so lucky I got to be her mom, that I got to journey through the hardest time of my life. And I saw myself persevering. And I've taken that experience now and written a book about it and made it bigger than myself, because the book is called When Wishes Change. And I think so many of us go through life with these big wishes and dreams, which you should do, but they don't all come true. And when something doesn't go your way, it's like, well, how do you look at that situation and find positive, find joy, happiness again, and pivot into something new, a new opportunity? And we did have another child after. And so I have 2 living children, 10 and 5, and they love talking about their sister, and she's a part of our everyday life. But I think just through going through that, I learned a lot about life and not giving up, and really just like surviving a tragedy and seeing it in a positive way instead of just being paralyzed by fear. So.
Wow. You
Yeah.
almost made me like
Oh,
tear
no, no, no.
up.
I almost lost it like 4
Yeah,
times.
I know you and I was like, oh my God.
I know, that was a lot. That was a lot.
No, but when you already shared the story, some of this with me,
Yeah.
but to hear you like actually talk that again and go through that, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, just the mental preparing for all of that. But and I'm listening to all of this, even going back to like the relationships that you built with your team and that authenticity and that just support
and vulnerability.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of strength in all of that, and I think that this is not just this came about when you learned a lot during this, but I think you also that strength was there before that. There was other that kind of prepares you to get to these next stages, and so wow.
Yes, I think the athlete, just your upbringing as an athlete and coach, that in itself also I think gave you that mental toughness.
Yeah.
To commit,
yes,
and
to see it
go
through.
all in. That's right.
Well, and that's why I love coaching, because my whole life I've been coaching volleyball, but I always see it as so much bigger than that, because if you can persevere through a season and through injuries and through controversy with teammates or battling, it just ends up applying in life later through your job, through your family, through other circumstances in your life. And I saw it was almost like all the things that I've said to athletes my whole life, I was like, use it on yourself, and even last year. So I came up with the book title literally like this time last year, as I was about to go to print. It was like the last thing. I didn't have a book title, and everything was like, Annabelle's Army or something about her. But I was like, no, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. And so when that title came to me, it was like a meeting with my editor, and I must have said the phrase "when wishes change," and then she like stopped me and said, "You have a book title." But at the time I was working full time in a job I thought I would be at for my entire life. But something felt uncomfortable and things were changing. And I had a new boss that was narcissistic and, demeaning. And there were so many things that my own book title was like, "When wishes change." Like, I know you think you're going to be here your whole life and this is your path, but no, that's not it anymore. And I kind of went through, it was a very different processing than losing a child, but I went through the whole thing over again, where I had to step back and say, do I want to be miserable? Do I want to have panic attacks? Do I want to be, sad and upset and lonely? No. So then what can I do to change it? And how can I find opportunity in that change? And the book came together, and then speaking opportunities came up, and now I'm consulting and I'm coaching volleyball. It's like I traded one job for four. But I'm much happier. But I had to get out of that comfort zone, and it was a lot of hard nights and a lot of hard conversations with myself and with my husband all over again, of not knowing what the future would bring, but knowing I was no longer where I was supposed to be. And that's really hard for a lot of people. I think that's the hardest thing in life, to just make a change and you have blind trust and you're like, I don't know what's around the corner, but I'm just going to do it. But I knew I'd been there before, and I spent a million nights like crying and doubting and like, how could I ever be happy again? How could I ever see hope at the end of this? And I have found hope, and I've found joy in different ways. And I'm like, no, you've done it before. Like, do it again. And it has taken time. It's taken time to adjust to a new life and a new schedule and what I'm doing. But now it's almost been a year since I left that job. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness that I did that and I took that leap of faith.
Yeah. Which I think you said some really powerful things there, because I think that this whole idea, I was coaching somebody the other day and I was talking about this, that, people really only make change when they either get pinned against the wall and they're forced to make it, like you were saying right now, you're unhappy, all of these things are going on, or they long for something to be different, you know? And so I think, yes, a lot of people get hung up on that what if part. Like, if I do this, what's this? But I think you touched upon some really great things in the idea of going through these kinds of events that we have, maybe not so much what you had to go through, but all these little events where we make pivots and we don't know, we build confidence in doing that, because when we do one, then we know when the next thing comes up, we've got this.
Yeah.
So I do think it's a lot of outlook, and definitely mindset, I think, is important when going through anything. And that's what I think is neat about what we do here, because we bring people on that are not just, you're in a great place, where you have this story, but you're also this entrepreneur too. And you've learned to take your tragedy and put it into a place where now you can help other people. And, but I think there's so much commonality between these things that we go through in our personal life and how they relate to how we conduct our business too, because how you show up in one area is how you show up in the other. So,
well, and a lot of being an entrepreneur is like, seeing a disappointment or something not going your way, and then knowing you got to get out of bed and get on it the next day.
Do it anyway.
Don't have time to like wallow. Because I could even say, you know, being at a full-time job where you just get the same paycheck every 2 weeks, you could have a bad day and kind of like wallow through it, and you're still going to get the check, and you're not being constantly evaluated or constantly having to earn your way. But I've taught myself to just be like, all right, today was a bad day. Like a lot of things didn't go the way I thought it would, or I didn't get this consulting job or that. But tomorrow I'm going to contact 5 more people, and then I'm going to set up some private lessons for volleyball, and then I'm going to do this and do that. And I think I've always been, in the mindset, I've always been that type of person, but I'd never tried it on my own. I'd never attempted it on my own. And it takes a lot of like mental energy to be that way. And you do and I have already realized, like early on, I was working like 7 days a week nonstop. I was always like hustle. And then as soon as I started feeling burnout, I was like, well, that's not going to work. I already know that. I would work myself to the bone before, and I'd be tired and have like no mental energy for my family or anything else. And so I am trying to find balance. I've always struggled with that. It's not really my strong suit, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying, and every day I wake up and I say,
I have to get rid of that word. I say harmony. I don't like the word balance.
I say respect.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good word. I like that.
Work-life respect.
I like
respect. Integration. I like that word. Balance is just, it's such a, because I always think of
fair.
the scale.
It's not fair.
No, and I think of a scale. Don't you, like when you think of balance, you think of this like scale. And I'm like, there's nothing in life. Like we tell our kids life isn't even fair. You know, like there's nothing in life that's just like this all the time. It's always like this, right? We have to ebb and flow.
Sure.
So
sometimes we're working a little bit more than normal, but that's not the norm.
Right.
And then, you know, we adjust.
We ebb and flow.
Yeah, I agree.
This is good. So you're speaking and you're consulting and doing all kinds of things. That sounds amazing. And you're still coaching in athletics too. You got a lot going on. Traded off the nasty. You got more things, but they're good. You're happy. That's
it's all things in my wheelhouse. And that was another thing. Like, what do I love to do? And how can I do all the things I love and make it work in harmony? And that's basically what I've attempted. Like everything that I take on, I'm like, do I love this? Is that something I'm really passionate about? Do I think I can help people? Because I know how I'm fulfilled, and it's like helping others and relationships with others and, you know, good communication and, you know, figuring it out together. So yeah, as long as I can in my day, like change my brain from one to the other, which I'm learning to do more and more, then I
struggle with
I
that.
can find success. Yeah, exactly.
That's I think all of us have a little bit of that sometimes. Like shift, move to the next thing. Shift. Brianna's really good at scheduling. She gets her calendar like down to the T. Now I'm not as great at that. I have to make that mental shift. Be like, let's turn it off. Let's go to the next thing. You know, let it go, kind of thing. So
right.
You're doing good.
Well, you've obviously been through a lot. You've persevered. You've gone to the other side. Then you've been through things again, right? Mm-hmm. If you have someone, we have someone listening right now that's like, man, I'm in it right now, and it's really tough, and I don't know how I'm gonna get through it. What types of tips would you like? What helped you kind of stay? The question we like to ask is like, what kept you in the game?
Yeah.
You know, when the going got tough,
yeah.
right? What enabled you to just like stick in there? And was there even a bit of advice that you would give to people, like if they're just in it and they can't really see the forest through the trees?
Yes. So for me, I'm like super relational, and I know that about myself. And so when I was pregnant, I had to find other people just like me. And so podcasts really weren't as big then, but the Facebook community groups were kind of starting out. And so I just started searching like Trisomy 18 moms or Trisomy families or, you know, grieving parents, like anything that was similar. And I was just posting like, hey, I'm in Dallas, Texas. This is my situation. I'm this many weeks pregnant. This is my diagnosis. Is there anybody out there in the same boat or that has gone through the same exact thing? And I met people from all over the world because it's such a small community. And there's something about, like, I have a lot of really close friends, but if you haven't gone through the exact same thing, they can relate maybe a loss that they had, like a grandparent or like something else, but it's just not exactly the same. And for me, I need two things. I need to know like what's ahead, even if it's terrible. Just tell me what's next and how I'm going to feel or how you got through it. And I'm aware that that's not exactly how my story is going to go, but at least it could help. And then I also liked being there with somebody that was like in it with me so that we could, hey, how are you feeling today? And so I met a mom in Austin that was about a month behind me in her pregnancy that we got connected to. And so I kind of had the person that was in it that we could wallow together a little bit. But then I also had people that had been through it and that could be on the other side of the rainbow. And that was it for me. I know a lot of people though, like in that moment, you don't want to talk to anybody. You just want to lay on the couch and cry. But I always felt like it made me feel better after I talked to other people. Now, my husband's not like that. He is not like talk on the phone and like, hey, let's go have coffee and like talk. His thing was more hands-on projects. And so he wants to go in the garage and work or do something in the yard. And so I think we know each other enough and respect each other's differences to where it's like when I know that he needs to go do something outside, I know that really it's because he has a lot on his mind and he needs that. And that's another thing is that I think women and men grieve so differently and respond to change very differently. And at first I was a little offended because I was always crying and he was never crying. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Are you not sad about this? This is terrible. But I just knew that his way of dealing with it was like, I'm the protector. I'm going to make sure that, the groceries are picked up and the trash is taken out and the kids are doing okay while I was like wallowing in my grief. And then when he was having a hard time and I was a little bit better, he's out in the garage working on something. And I'm like, all right, cool. I got the kids and we're going to hang out. And then we come together with the family. And I think we had to go through a transition period where we had to figure out each other's differences and how we dealt with change and grief and how we deal with bad days. And that's super applicable to marriage in good and bad times, not losing a child, not having that issue. Right. Because I think that when we were in it and struggling to understand each other, we both were like upset about how each other was dealing with it. Like, why are you on the phone all the time? I got that. And I was like, I need to freaking talk to people. Like, that's my thing. You have to understand that this is how I process things and how I need to talk things out. And if we're paying extra minutes, then get unlimited for me. Like,
right.
Just do it.
Yeah. Give me the unlimited.
And then I can't be like, why are you out in the garage? Like, I need you in here. And I have to give him his time. Now, you have to find a balance. I can't be on the phone all day and he can't be in the garage all weekend. But that was something that helped me, was understanding my husband and getting through it with us together. And I was just relational. I needed to talk to people. But I think that everybody should know themselves well enough to be like, what is it that I need? Do you just need like be by yourself and get a manicure, or like go away for a weekend with some girlfriends? Or are you a people person and you need to have a person there for you? Or do you need to see a therapist? Because that's another thing. Right. So many people, their friend isn't getting them through it. Then go seek professional help. And that's not anything to be ashamed about. So I think if you can kind of take a moment of like intake and inventory of who you are, I think you can figure out what you would need. And then you kind of have to force yourself into it. Like, make yourself go do what you know will make you feel better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'm listening to you, and I was cracking up because when you were saying like your husband has to go out in the garage, like I go to work. That's how I am too. I don't need to talk and I don't need to stew. I need to just work. I need to be left alone to go do what I need to do. And I will be gone. You won't find me.
Yeah. I'm like you. I need to talk it out. I need to figure it out. And sometimes it's just me going on a walk and talking to myself. Yeah. But I love that you said that, because you and your husband were going through this together, but you still needed to find a community outside of your husband.
Yes.
And it's really important that people hear that, because we don't always have to put these demands and these expectations on our partner to be everything for us. Yep. We can get support in other areas and still honor and love and take care of our partner.
Yep.
So I'm glad you shared that, because I think a lot of people in marriage and even just relationships, they expect, well, my partner needs to fulfill all of these roles. And that's very unfair.
It is.
It's very unfair to both of you.
And we were both like at the bottom. Yeah. So when you're both at the bottom, like you have to be brought up higher. And that for us both was like outside things that were going to help us. So but now I feel like now that we figured that out through the hardest time in our life, it's been so applicable in so many other circumstances, when his job's not going well and when I took a leap of faith and left my job. And so I just think the marriage got stronger from that. And that's something that you have to put that focus on and figure out with each other. or else it could just fall aside and things wouldn't go well between your spouse or partner.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a lot of good stuff.
Yes.
Well, and I was thinking while you're talking about that, because I was thinking about even how that applies in business, because so often, just kind of flip this for a second. We get into a field that we're in, and we think that so often the people that are in our circle are our competitors, and then we also think they're the only people that know who we need to talk to. And oftentimes we need to step out of that space and talk to other people, and which kind of leads me into my next question, because I want to ask you, for somebody that's thinking about in the entrepreneur space, like taking all this stuff that you went through, what you learned from that, move that into the entrepreneur space, and you said some really good things about what's keeping you in the game. But what would you offer somebody maybe starting out as an entrepreneur coming into this space? Maybe they want to be a speaker or an author, or I don't know, kick up another business.
Well, I always say in like all 4 of my jobs, like, you don't ever have to reinvent the wheel. Like somebody out there has already done it and done it well. And you don't have to create anything by yourself. And again, back to me knowing that I'm a relational person, I'd never written a book. And so I was like, well, I got to figure this out. And so I have a friend whose sister wrote a book or several books. And I'm like, well, she must know. And so I took a course from her. And then I'm like, well, I'm not an editor, so I got to figure out who can edit. And so I started talking to people that wrote and found myself my editor. And then I don't know how to publish. Why would I figure that out on my own? Millions of people have already published books. And so I got real into podcasts. I listened to like a book marketing podcast and a book publishing podcast. It was like everything that I needed to learn. I was constantly, and with the pandemic, we drove everywhere for vacations. So for 12 hours in the car, I would just be plugged into some podcast when I was driving, so that my husband had to deal with the kids. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Podcast on.
Focusing on the road. I'm working right now, kids. And then we would like trade responsibilities. But that was like a really big growth time for me. And then when I got into the speaking, it was the same thing. I mean, I'm like, I don't know. I've never done this before. I need to talk to people that are, and again, people like me, like in the same space. Like I have a very niche message and like a space of who I think my audience is. Well, I need to find somebody that's spoken to the same audience or sold the same kind of a book and how they found success. And then really in coaching volleyball, I mean, my whole life, I mean, I've coached for so long that now I'm kind of like the mentor to a lot of people, but I follow 1 million Instagram accounts that are drills, volleyball drills and volleyball advice and, ways to help athletes. I've read every mental performance book that's out there for coaching and training athletes because I don't want to think that I'm ever done growing and learning. And kids have changed so much. Even since I started coaching, the kids and the way that they learn, the way they process information, and definitely how their parents are, is a different world. So if I was stuck in coaching the way I did when I first started out, I couldn't be successful. Like I would not be successful. So I've had to adjust in that way as well. And then with consulting, I was going to do it kind of more on my own, but instead I found this consulting group. I found guys with tremendous experience and I'm like, I want to be with y'all. I want to be on your team and I'm happy to start at the bottom. And now I'm like in an observing state where, I'm listening in on a lot of projects, but they're the leads so that I can eventually be that person. But I didn't know everything about consulting. Yeah. So why don't I just follow you around and see how you do it? So wow. I feel like I'm constantly trying to grow and learn and not think that I know everything.
Yeah, I got the whole student of learning there. That's like the whole overarching message of the whole thing.
Be a learner.
Be a learner.
Yes, be a learner.
Don't be afraid to grow.
So funny because I just put a post up on my Instagram today about personal development. You'll have to check it out. But it was all about how somehow we were talking about French. I don't know how that came up. But the whole thing was about, we should never stop learning or get to a place where we think we don't have to grow as individuals. Yeah. So thank you for confirming that today. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It resonates well.
Wow.
This has been great.
Yeah, we're so thankful that you could be here today. Yeah. I think we need to ask a few rapid fire.
Rapid fire. You want to kick it off?
Yes.
You kick it off.
Okay. Yes. The idea behind this is to answer it very quickly.
Oh, okay.
As quick as possible.
Yes.
I like it.
Okay. Mexican or pizza?
Mexican.
Good answer.
Margaritas.
Yeah. Dog or cat?
Dog.
First concert
that I ever went to?
Yeah.
Janet Jackson.
Ooh, control. Favorite destination spot?
Oh, beaches.
Anywhere.
Okay. I get to ask the last question.
Go for it.
What's in your Amazon cart?
Oh, books right now. I have a couple books.
That's my favorite question.
Yeah.
I know, and I stole it today.
It's all good. All good. All right, Tricia, well, tell us one more time the name of your book. And if our audience wants to get in touch with you, purchase the book, check out what you're doing, where do we want to send them?
All the things. So the book is called When Wishes Change. The website is When Wishes Change. And honestly, the fun thing about it is that there was a documentary made out of my whole story. And that and a ton of behind the scenes footage is there. And I love books that are based on true stories because I'm like, oh, it's real, you know, or like a movie based on a true story. And so, I mean, there's like a 2-minute video of me waddling around at the state championship game and highlights from the game. And there's a video on there of my son singing to Annabelle like the day before she died and holding her. It got like 50 or 60,000 views when we first posted it. And so there's a lot of behind the scenes footage on the website. And then on social media, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at When Wishes Change.
Maybe you'll find her. I want to check out
WhenWishesChange.com.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you, Tricia.
Awesome.
This has been wonderful.
Thanks
You're
for
So
amazing.
happy you could be here in the flesh,
In
the
person,
studio.
That's right.
not on Zoom.
Not on
Yay.
Zoom.
Woohoo!
We do a different application than Zoom, but it's always better to have everybody here if we can
Yes.
get them here. All right. We do want to say to our audience, of course, if you enjoy our show, please be sure to give us a rating both on iTunes and Facebook because we can't do this without you. Hit the subscribe button on
That's
YouTube.
right. And we want to leave you with a final thought before we say goodbye. And this is a quote from Ayn Rand, and I felt like this was very appropriate. The question isn't who is going to let me, it's who is going to stop me.
Ooh, I
Boom.
like it, Rand. That's good.
Yeah, I like that too.
All right. To live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, and be kind to one another. We will see you next time.